The way I see this playing out is we have some optimists and we have some pessimists.
Mostly what we're doing is some modernization and moving things around.
Brought to you by the East Asian National Resource Center in Georgetown University.
Sending Secretary Clinton there was a master stroke of political importance.
One of the criticisms is the pivot's a lot of sizzle, not a lot of steak.
This is an Asian Studies podcast.
My name is KristenLooney. I'm a new assistant professor here at Georgetown in the Asian Studies program. Prior to coming here, I was at Harvard University. I just completed my PhD at Harvard this year. And my field is political science. I'm trained as a comparative political scientist. My research is primarily related to China and Chinese domestic politics, but it's also somewhat broader than that. So my dissertation project was a comparison of rural development policies in mainland China, Taiwan, and South Korea. And part of the motivation for doing a multiple country study is that there's all these ideas about how East Asia was able to surpass the rest of the developing world in the post-war period, and a lot of them focus on the story of industrial sector development. But there's not really comparative literature on what happened in the rural sector. And since these countries are normally grouped together, I wanted to see if the process was similar in East Asia, as the process appears to be similar with respect to industrialization. And it turned out to be really interesting because I think a lot of people would be surprised to learn that China has actually consulted the former policies of South Korea in the 1970s, particularly the New Village movement under Park Chung-hee, which a lot of Westerners have looked at and said was an exercise in political brainwashing and propaganda. But the Chinese have looked at it as a very valid rural development experience. And they've also looked at Taiwan, which is perhaps more controversial than Korea because of political status being ambiguous, but looked at them as a very successful model of rural development in the post-war era. And so I found it was actually quite useful for understanding where the origins of China's policies to look at these other cases. I've been going back and forth to Asia since 1999 was my first trip. I had never left the United States before then, and my first trip was to China. I went on a language study program, and I just got hooked on it. And so since then, I've cumulatively spent about 5 years in Asia, including 2 years during my dissertation research, but also time immediately after college. One of those years I just spent traveling. I went to 16 different countries in Asia, so I saw really a lot of it. And I have spent most of my time in China, but during those travels got really interested in Korea as well, so I spent some time learning the Korean language and studied over there as well. One thing I would recommend for somebody who's doing a year-long trip in Asia is to definitely make time to go to the rural areas. This is perhaps why my research is kind of focused on rural areas. It's just one Asian megacity after another. It really wears on you. So, Tokyo is fantastic. Taipei is fantastic. But, Tokyo, Taipei, Hong Kong, Singapore, Seoul, Beijing, Shanghai, they all have this certain kind of Asian megacity flavor. And the place that I found to be most different from that was Mongolia, and I loved my time there because of that. Going to a small capital in a large country that's, not urbanized on that scale, and then being able to see a lot of the natural landscape and wildlife was really fantastic. I normally, in my free time, love to get together with my friends and just hang out. And so I have, in addition to getting together with friends from home, I don't know. I like to go to museums and get outside. Like, for example, when I do something for fun, I almost never choose anything that's related to Asia. If I go to a museum exhibit, if I pick up a novel, if I watch a new movie, it has to be about some other region of the world to kind of, spark my interest. I think that in America we're used to doing things very quickly, and in Asia I've had to learn to really build up my patience, and you can't do things as quickly as you would like to. And there's this kind of proverb in Chinese, 走马观花, which means to look at the flowers, observe the flowers while riding a horse. So clearly you can't appreciate their beauty as you're zooming by on some kind of fast, horse. So I remind myself of that when I'm there. Because I really think that to get the most out of your experience, sometimes you need to drop your purpose and your deadlines and just really spend significant time there soaking it up.
For the Asian Studies Department at Georgetown University, this has been an Asian Studies Special Report. To find more podcasts like this one, log on to our website at asianstudies.georgetown.edu, where you can learn about our academic programs and upcoming events on campus. Thank you for listening.